What's up, y'all? It's Chad. We are back for another episode of From the Shadow, Season 2, Episode 3. Today's guest is Tess Frizzell, who is absolute country music royalty. Her grandmother was Dottie West, who was like one of the first females to ever win like a major award. Her mom was Shelley West, who You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma. Huge song, huge career. Her uncle was Lefty Frizzell. We get into all that, all her heritage, all her history. One of the funny things we talked about is the very first time her grandmother Dottie ever saw her was the day after she was born. She was hosting the ACM Awards, and Dick Clark sent a camera crew out to Shelley's hotel room, and they showed her on the big screen at the ACMs. Really funny story. We get into that. Tess has a single out right now. It's called The Wrong One. It's her very first real single. So you guys go get that however you consume your music. Apple, Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. Make sure you're supporting her. Really fun episode. Also shout out, I didn't do this in the Walker Montgomery episode because I forgot and I spaced, but we brought on Kelsey Page to do video this year, and she absolutely killed it. So shout out to Kelsey, and you'll hear about her squeaky pants in this episode. Anyways, really fun episode. Let's get into it. Episode 3, Season 2, From the Shadow, Tess Frizzell. Have you ever wondered what it would be like growing up if your parents were famous? When the eyes of the world are on you from birth. My name is Chad Bearden, and for the last decade, I've toured the US and Canada playing country music. Along the way, I've made some amazing friends who happen to be famous or are the child of a famous person. Listen as I go backstage, behind the curtain, and talk with them about growing up in the shadow of their parents, the ups and downs of being born into fame, and their journey into making their own name and leaving their own mark on the world. Welcome to From the Shadow. All right, welcome to another episode of From the Shadow, and I'm so pumped for today's guest. We have Miss Tess Frizzell on the show today. Thanks for doing this.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me.
How are you?
Good, I'm great.
So I'm going to read your bio in a minute because I want people to understand your situation, but also like
my situation.
So, but I also just want to talk about so today was the first day we've ever met in person, and I actually found you because, and I didn't even explain this, I don't think, when I emailed you, but so I don't follow a lot of people on TikTok, but I'm a big fan of Bobby Tomberlin. And he's an Alabama guy. I'm an Alabama guy, and he's written a ton of hits. But I mean, true. I think I follow like 50 people, but he's one of them. Yeah. And you guys did some shows together and some stuff, right. And you he had you on there, and you did like a quick recap, like in 15 seconds of your family, and I'm like, right. Holy crap! Like, first of all, like this girl is really entertaining. And her family history is crazy.
It is crazy.
So, like, I went to your Facebook, I think, and you have your email on there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I sent you an email.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Bobby.
Yeah. And I don't know Bobby at all. I've never met him.
Well, he's the sweetest thing.
Yeah. I'm hoping to run. I've been here for 10 years. You would think we would run into each other for something. But so I'm actually, I'm just going to read the bio that you have listed on your Facebook
Take a big
page.
Breath.
Yes. And also, I didn't bring my glasses today, which helps, but we're going to give it a shot here. Okay. Tess Frizzell was born into country music royalty, being the daughter of CMA ACM winner Shelley West and successful singer-songwriter Alan Frizzell. Country music runs deep in her DNA. That is the biggest understatement I think that I've ever heard. Your grandmother is in the Country Music Hall of Fame, Dottie West. Yeah. And your uncle is Lefty Frizzell. Yeah. I mean, there's not one strand of your DNA that's not country music history.
That's true.
That's a lot. I mean, you're talking one of the most influential females ever in country music. And what many people would argue that Lefty and George Jones are like the two best male vocalists ever in country music, maybe in any genre. So it's a crazy impressive history to come from.
Oh, it's definitely crazy. And you're right. I mean, there are so many, everyone on both sides of my family are in music, every single one of them. And so, I mean, I was definitely in school before I realized like there was another occupation outside of the music business.
Right. So let's talk about that. So when you're growing up, obviously you're surrounded by this. Did you go to public school or private school or?
I did go to public school, and
were you born here in Nashville?
I was born here in Nashville.
So you're like the unicorn.
Well, yeah, I know it's a rarity here. Fun story about when I was born, actually, and this will just tell you how crazy this story and this one story just tells you how crazy. So, when I was born, it was the week of the ACM Awards, and my mom, Shelley West, and my uncle, David Frizzell, her duet partner, they were up for Best Duo of the Year for Frizzell and West for You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma. But she went into labor with me and couldn't make it to the award show. Now, my grandmother, like you said, Dottie West, she was hosting the awards. And so she could not be there when I was born. But my Uncle David was there. And my grandmother they won, actually.
Oh, wow.
And so my grandmother accepted on my mom's behalf for her. And Dick Clark, who was doing the ACM Awards, had the idea to send a film crew to Baptist Hospital in Nashville after I had been born, goes in, and my mom introduces me there with my dad. And so when my grandmother is hosting the awards, she's
live
standing
on
there.
national
Yes,
TV?
yeah. She's standing there with Mickey Gilley on one side and Conway Twitty on the other. And they said, "We heard you just became a grandmother. Would you like to meet your granddaughter for the first time ever?" And then they show the video, and I was 1 day old on the ACM Awards.
What if the answer is no? What if you don't you're like, no, I want to meet her in person.
Right, yeah. Nope, too late. Here she is on national television, everyone.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you made your television debut
Yeah,
at
one day
old.
One
Yeah.
day old. That's true.
That's insane.
It is crazy.
I thought you were going to say they showed up for like labor and
No, I didn't go that far, though. I mean, I'm shocked she agreed to that. Like, if I've just given birth, I don't think I want to be on national television. But she, but
never
she
given
was,
birth,
and
but
they
I don't
won the
think.
award. Oh my gosh, and it's so funny too. You have to go to YouTube and look at my grandmother gets up to accept for my mom, and David's up there, my Uncle David, and Uncle David's like, and thank you, Snuffy Garrett, and thanking all the people. And then my grandmother gets up and she's like, "My granddaughter's so pretty." And it's like a total grandmother moment.
that is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to find that and
Yeah.
include
Oh,
that
you
in
have
this.
to.
That's awesome. So you go to public school. Do the people recognize you right away and know that who you are?
Well, yes and no. I mean, as far as when I was in school, it felt pretty normal. But then again, it's like it was Nashville normal. So, for example, in 5th grade, my teacher, Miss Stegall, my favorite teacher, if she's listening, her son was Keith Stegall, if you know.
I do know
Yeah,
Keith,
working with Alan Jackson, all of that at the time. And so she was a huge country music fan, loved my mom. And also in my class was Vince Gill's daughter, Jenny Gill. We're just a few days apart in age. And so we're both in the class, and our teacher put an album of Vince on the wall and an album of my mom on the wall. Except my mother on that particular album cover is wearing lingerie, and I'm in 5th grade, and so you can just imagine how that went over. And Jenny was like, "Well, my dad's on the wall too. I mean, it's embarrassing." I'm like, no. It is not the same thing.
My mom's in her underwear.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so then all the guys are like, "I'll be your boyfriend."
Yeah. I heard a lot of "Oh, your mom is so hot" at a very early age.
Wow. So how early did you start singing?
Oh gosh. Well, My mom says that basically as soon as I could crawl, I crawled out onto the stage with her and David. And I would always come out there and they would be singing, You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma. And I would say that I wanted to sing, but then I would literally just only do the very last word. And it's funny because, I do remember. I mean, even like, I think I probably started the singing part on that song coming out about age 1, maybe. And I remember, like, I would just do that last word, and then the crowd would go wild. And, I soon learned that it doesn't always stay that way.
Right. So, were you, I mean, obviously, your mom was traveling a lot at the time.
Oh, yeah.
So, were you just out on the road with her, like hanging out in the bus?
I was a bus baby. And, learned to walk on the bus. And I'd always be hanging out with the band. And I'd come out from the back room and I'd say, so is it going to be a hotel or a motel?
My band asked me the same thing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, oftentimes it's a motel.
Yes, especially if I'm the one paying for it. Right. And you're not complaining about it.
Right.
Yeah, I understand that completely. But also, there's no better sleep than on a bus.
Oh, my
so
gosh.
As a baby.
I know. I know.
I mean, getting in a bunk, I can't explain that experience.
No, I know.
People.
The engine underneath you, no, I know, you can't.
Unless you're in, like, West Virginia, where all the roads
unless you're, like, hanging off a cliff, that part.
But the sleep inside a bus is incredible.
I totally agree.
So early on, you're, at a year old, when you can walk, you're coming out on stage with your mom. Did that kind of always continue, or how did that?
It did. And, I'd go through little periods where, it was definitely totally natural, but then I'd go through a little shy period, but then I would still do it. And then she retired from singing when I was 13. And I remember when we sold the bus, I felt like it was like a family member, Right. And so then it wasn't as much a part of my life, like when I was an early teen.
Did you think you were going to do something else with your life then?
Not really. I always, when I was little and people would ask me, I would say, well, I'm either going to be a ballerina or a singer. And then I grew up to be 5'2". So the whole ballerina thing didn't really pan out. But
I guess it's important to be a different height as a ballerina.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have to have long legs to be tall and. No.
I'm not super caught up on the ballerina.
You're not up on the ballerina lingo, Chad.
I'm not.
But no, it was just so a part of me. It was like not a question. But then I did go through a little phase where people, every single time we were in a new town, people would say, and it's natural and no one meant anything, but they would say, so I guess you're going to be a singer just like your mom, constantly. Right. And so then I did go through a little thing where I would say, I'm going to be anything but a singer.
Right. It's like, I'm not.
You have to rebel a little bit.
For sure. So when did you start putting out music of your own?
Oh, great question. Well, when I was an older teen and then my college years at Belmont, my dad was actually doing the producer thing down on Music Row. And I would, in between classes, run over there and I would, like do a demo for him and stuff in the studio. And that's where I kind of got my studio experience. And, after that, I did do like a little album, nothing that was big or anything. And it was just kind of like songs I love. Like, here's a Merle Haggard song on this, you know what I mean? But it wasn't really anything big. But I did get to be a part of some things after that where there was a really amazing project that my Uncle David did that had like Merle Haggard on it and Crystal Gale and Helen Cornelius and Lacey J. Dalton and Johnny Lee and like all these people.
Wow.
And I got to be on that, which was like, I just don't. It's really interesting because I grew up around all of those people.
Right.
I literally remember sneaking up on a Merle Haggard's bus and like snooping around as a kid. But then like when you're an adult and you're like, oh my gosh,
Like at some point, the reverence kicks in.
Yeah, I was like, I was just on a project with Merle Haggard. Like all of a sudden, it's a different perspective. So that was really interesting.
Yeah. So you said you went to Belmont. What was your major at Belmont?
Oh, well, it was creative writing.
Okay.
And, I always loved to write. And really, honestly, the whole reason I went to Belmont is because my mom was like, you have got to go to college. She just had this like freak out moment, I think, that I was probably going to be a singer. Right. And she was like, well, you have to go to college. You have to go to college. And
it's a way to push you off for a little bit.
Yeah. So basically, let's just be honest. All that really did was make my parents have to pay for $100,000 in student, me going to college. And I just enjoyed writing. So I was like, okay, and didn't use it, but I did it.
Well, and if people are not familiar with Belmont, it's probably between like Belmont and Berkeley are the two most revered music schools in the nation.
Yes.
And obviously it's located here in Nashville, so that gives it pretty big props there. So did you start writing songs at that point?
That's a great question. So I have always loved writing. It's so natural to me, but I was so intimidated by songwriting. And so I just would not try it. And my Uncle Lefty, obviously, a lot of those hits. Oh, gosh, and the ones with him and Whitey Schaefer, those are some of my favorite country songs of all time. And my grandmother, all the songs she wrote. In fact, the one that won her a Grammy and made her the first country music female artist to win a Grammy was a song she co-wrote with my granddad. But the thing is, when you have all of that, it can be so intimidating.
Right.
And you just feel like, well, if I can't be super amazing at it, maybe I just shouldn't try.
Right.
And so I was so scared to try, honestly, this entire time until a couple of years ago, Bobby Tomberlin was like, and this is really funny because anyone who knows him, gosh, he's literally had songs cut by everyone. Willie Nelson, Barbra Streisand, Blake Shelton, Daryl Worley, Diamond Rio. I mean, we could go on for 1,000 years, and so he gets a lot of people begging to write with him, naturally, and I just wasn't having it. And he was begging me to write with him. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just kind of intimidating. He's like, I can just tell that you're a writer. Would you just please? And so I finally agreed, and we got together and we had 11 songs in a couple weeks and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he was like, you're such a natural at this. And then, it just took the right person that made you feel comfortable to do it. And now, I just love it.
Right. So I moved to Nashville to be a songwriter in 2012, I think is when I got here. Mm-hmm. But so for somebody like me, I grew up dirt poor on a little farm in Alabama, and you kind of don't know any better. Yeah. You come to town and you think where I come from in Alabama, I decided to start playing country music kind of in my late 20s, and then quickly I became the biggest little local act, so I was kind of the big fish in the little pond. And but in songwriting, I loved writing songs. It's my favorite part. But then I moved to Nashville. I'm I'm gonna be a songwriter. I'm gonna have a pub deal. I'm gonna do this. And I remember my first meeting at BMI. The BMI rep I met with was like, you should move back to Alabama.
Oh, gosh.
And I was like, what?
One of those.
Yeah. And he's kind of has that reputation anyways. But he's like, no, this is what I mean. He's like, I told you to bring me 4 songs. And of the 4 songs that you brought me, you were a solo writer on 3 of those. And he's like, tell me how many songs on country radio are solo writers. And that was before, and it's still beyond a Liz Rose who can have a humbling kind. Yeah. It's a rarity. And he was like, if you're going to live in Nashville, you have all the resources in the world, and the best songwriters in the entire world live here. Go co-write with people. Come back to me once you've co-written some decent songs. So,
Right.
you get guys like me who are dying to write with guys like
right.
Robbie. And then, so.
Yeah. Well, props to you for staying.
Well, it's not been an easy road, buddy.
Oh, it never is.
No. But for you, people assume a lot that it is, right?
Oh, that's the truth. Now you're opening a whole big can of worms.
Well, that's what we do on this
That's
podcast.
the truth. A lot of assumptions about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, people generally assume if your grandparents were the trailblazers they were, and then it went, especially for you, because it's not just, it's not just you had a parent who was very successful at this. Like, you've had generations of this.
Sure.
And so now people just almost expect it, right? Like let me say this. The general public expects you to be successful.
Yeah.
They expect you to be a star.
Yeah.
And they expect it to be easy for you.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Well, no, it's not fair.
No, I'm saying, is that a fair assessment?
True. It's absolutely true. Yes, it's true. And, even if I go and look back in like my baby book, there's literally like newspaper clippings of me and my mom and my grandmother where they're saying, oh, by the time she's 18, everyone watch out. She's going to have a record deal, whatever. And just saying that literally. And I'm like 2 years old in the picture. So it's a lot of pressure. I think that people, just assume that you are just going to naturally be successful at this. But the thing about this situation, anyone you talk to who comes from a family of successful or famous people will tell you that it is a blessing and a curse. And in the music business, a lot of what it does is it opens the door and then it shines a harder light. Right. And so it's like, you're going to get the doors opened. And I appreciate that. I really do. And I do it's not like I feel like I deserve anything more than anyone else does. But I do appreciate that all of the trailblazing my family did, does give me that opportunity, that it'll open a door. I do appreciate that, but.
So I'm assuming there comes a point in your career where you decide, I want to try to get a record deal. I want to get these meetings or whatever. Walk me through that. What's a response from a record company or from, and you don't have to give specific responses, but so when you walk into those meetings, obviously it's a little easier to get the meeting because you have this heritage. But how do you feel like they view you, and what's been your experience as you walk in to a meeting, or whatever it is, a showcase or whatever, as you're trying to secure a record deal?
Sure. Well, I feel like I've gotten mostly positive feedback, but I think more than anything, it's been more of the narrative in my own head that I'm having to fight, of just insecurities and dealing with knowing right out of the gate there's going to be comparisons. And I can't even honestly say that I've been given any kind of harsh, treatment, or like, well, you just don't have it. No doors have been slammed, but you can feel the scrutiny, you can feel the comparisons. And I think because of that, I have spent the majority of my life, staying out of things like those meetings. Right. Because it's scary, to be that vulnerable.
Right. Well, and the upside of that is, in the world that we live in today, you can still do this and be very successful without a record label.
Oh, absolutely. Things have completely changed.
You're not going to get played on country radio.
Sure.
But the predominant of consumers under the age of 50 or 60 use their phone. Yeah. Everything is on their phone.
And I really love the freedom of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Napster changed the world for us, because then you realized everything is literally at the tip of my fingers.
Yeah.
So it also changed the music industry. And I feel like sometimes country music is the slowest to catch up to that. You see a lot of like the rap and the pop world kind of dive into that more. But, now, if you land a couple playlists or you can go viral on TikTok.
Exactly. That's the truth. Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, I see guys who, we were playing the same club circuits across the country and they get a song that goes viral on TikTok.
Yeah.
And, next thing you know,
it can just change
they're
overnight.
selling out tours.
Yeah.
And, and then record labels come to them and say, hey, we'll offer you a deal. And they're like,
and you're like,
why do I need you?
I don't need you.
Right. And which is not a knock on a label.
No.
I mean, these guys are still trying to run a business and they are still really good at what they do.
But I do love that there's another way to go about things now.
Right.
That's really freeing.
Right. And so do you feel like that has created a path for you that you didn't have to kind of sit in those meetings?
Definitely. I think what is amazing about that for me is that I can connect with people on social media, and I get to share those stories, and they get to relive those moments of when they were like, I saw Dottie and Kenny in '79 at this stadium, and it's a moment for them, and they get to relive that, and I get to have that personal connection, and then I get to do shows with the people who want that and everything, and I love going that route.
Right. Yeah, I want to follow up on that a little more in just a second.
Odds are, if you watch TV, you've seen plenty of ads for lawyers.
It's usually a lawyer telling you how great they think they are. But at the Verdoliak Law Group, it's different. It's always about the client.
In fact, all of us are actual clients, and we're here to proudly tell you how much the Verdoliak Law Group has done for us.
What impresses me most is how much the Verdoliak Law Group believes in their clients. They only get fees if they win, and they use their own dollars to take cases to trial.
It's that ability to fight for their clients and win at trial that has helped the Verdoliak Law Group recover over $9 billion, and the insurance companies know that.
$9 billion, over 30,000 clients represented, and almost 60 years in business. That's a testament to their strength, knowledge, and success.
In fact, call them with all your legal needs. Like the saying goes, if they've been around that long, they must know what they're doing.
If you're injured in a car or truck accident, any work-related injury, or as a result of a medical error,
Call Verdoliak Law Group.
where it's always about the client.
Injured? Call Verdoliak Law Group.
So yeah, let's talk about your live shows. Tell me what shows are like for you. Like how many shows are you playing a year?
Oh gosh, well, it's a
Let's
pandemic.
let's remove the pandemic.
Yeah.
What would a normal year be like for you?
Well, I wasn't doing it as much actually until, I was doing really ones that were important to me and close to my heart, like the Dottie West birthday bash we have every year. And a lot of times I'll do the Sons and Daughters of Legends here locally and stuff. But I wasn't doing it as much until I got into the songwriting and made some really great connections, like with Bobby Tomberlin and then Terry Husky, Furlan Husky's son. Yeah. He and I did some shows together. Sweepy Walker, Billy Walker's grandson. We did some shows, and I was starting to do more. And then, of course, the pandemic kind of transitioned things. But I'm finally now starting to get to a point where it's a really good flow of you feel like you kind of are finding your people and connecting with the right people on social media who love what you're doing. And like at my shows, for instance, I'll tell the stories of growing up on the road that people don't get to necessarily hear, just by listening to your music. They get to hear that at a show. And then I also get to do songs that I've co-written, which makes it special. So it's really kind of changed directions, and I'm loving that a lot more.
That's awesome. So if you're doing a show, I mean, obviously you're doing your stuff. Are you also including?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. I definitely can't get out of there without doing You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma.
Which is, God, that's such a good song.
Yeah, that is the first song I literally ever knew in my life. So, even by the time I was born, you have to think my mom probably, she sang that on the Grammys when she was pregnant with me. I literally came out of the womb already knowing that, basically. Right. So I can't, get away without doing that one. And I love doing, Bobby and I will have shows together, and we'll do Every Time Two Fools Collide. That's my favorite Kenny Dottie duet. And so we do that one. Sometimes I do Here Comes My Baby, which is the song my grandmother won the Grammy with. And it doesn't bother me at all to do those. I don't feel like, oh, in order to come to my show, I have to do this. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm proud to do those.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, how much is that like, do you feel the pressure from that, or do you feel like, well, I want to push my own music more, or is it just all natural for you?
It's really natural. And what I love so much is I cannot tell you, I could be in any town or like the country music cruise I was on last week. And every time, especially that I sing You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma, almost all of the audience knows the words. And it is the coolest experience. It's such a really amazing connecting moment with them. And it's so nostalgic for them, and it takes them back. And it's just a really cool moment. And I love that. I love getting to be a part of that. So I'm proud.
Right. That's all. How did you feel when Blake and Miranda did that song?
Oh, gosh,
it kind of regenerated the song, right?
Yeah,
for a new generation of people who didn't know it, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. I remember being there that night, and with Mom and David. And if I remember right, they were doing the top 100 duets of all time, and I think it made number 3 or 6 or something. It was in the top 10. And I mean, people really remember that song. And then you're right. That was the moment that Blake and Miranda kind of had a little connecting moment themselves.
Yeah. I remember watching. I'm like, oh, they're about to get together.
It's a song about connection, all right. Yeah. And so I think it did kind of spur a new generation with that, which is awesome. I mean, that song has literally gone on now for 40 years, and so many people know it.
Right. It's a great song. So, what was the cruise like? You mentioned the country music cruise that you did.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. So I went with Bobby, and first of all, it was so nice to like not have Wi-Fi. At first we had a freak moment, like, oh my gosh, we're not going to have Wi-Fi. And then it was like, oh, this is amazing. Went to Mexico, the Bahamas. But what was funny about it is my Uncle David was also on the cruise. And so sometimes I would sing Every Time Two Fools Collide on Bobby's show. And then I'd go find David and go do Oklahoma on his show. And it was just so much fun. I mean, the stories, we'd have dinner, with like T. Graham Brown, and he would tell me stories about, my grandmother or whatever. Oh gosh. And Rudy Gatlin, the stories from that man, I probably can't share any of them, but it was just amazing. Cause I remember all of them, from when I was little and was around them, but it was amazing to, as an adult, hear the stories.
Right. So have you gotten to have an experience where it's kind of you're on stage singing your songs or their songs, and just like, I don't even know they're kind of standing in the wings, and they see you. What's that like?
Yeah. It is really surreal, like every time, honestly. Even when I was with David last week on the cruise and we're doing the song, there's just like a little moment of like, wow. I was 1 year old when I was singing this with you, and now here we are getting to do it. And it's a really cool full circle moment. Another moment like that was when a lot of people know the story that my grandmother brought both Steve Wariner and Larry Gatlin to town and kind of got them started. And so 1 year at the Dottie West birthday bash, the Gatlin brothers came, and Larry is like standing on the side of the stage, and for whatever reason I had decided to do one of his songs on that show, and I just thought, oh my gosh, this is like so surreal, like that I'm singing this, but it's just so cool. It's every single time it is like surreal to me. It's never old.
That's awesome. So you have some new music coming, right?
Yeah. I'm
depending
so
on when this podcast airs,
whenever this airs,
it may already be out or it's coming.
Right. So I'm releasing a new single, and honestly, this really is like truly my first single release, because I had done, like I mentioned, some other projects, but they were never really like this. This is a song and it has a really cool story behind it. So
tell us about it.
Yeah. So my grandmother, such a songwriter at heart, at her house, she would have Roger Miller in the kitchen, Chris Christopherson asleep on the couch, and Willie Nelson asleep on the floor, like at all times. And they were just over there songwriting. And so that's how she learned to songwrite. And she started all of these lyrics. Like, we have notepads and notepads full of just lyrics that she started and titles. And Bobby was like, okay, this could be a song. And he gave me the title. And I said, yeah, we need to finish that. So he and I went down to Muscle Shoals, and we finished writing the song with Billy Lawson, who also did the production on this song. And it's called The Wrong One. And it's so special to me because it's so amazing that I literally was able to co-write a song with my grandmother.
That's incredible.
Isn't that so cool?
That is the coolest story I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. And when we were down there in Muscle Shoals about to record it and we were finishing writing it, we had actually rescheduled the studio date and everything. I wasn't paying attention. And we're writing the song, and I looked down and I said, oh my gosh, it is literally the date that she passed away.
Oh my gosh.
It was on that date. And I was like, she died on this day so many years ago, but she's literally a part of a new song and new music today. Right. And that's what's so cool about music, is that it like lives on.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. So anything else coming up for you?
Well, got some shows. I'm going to be again on the Sons and Daughters of Legends this summer. And oh gosh, my
Where's
uncle.
That at?
That's going to be, I think they're having it at the Troubadour this year. And that's going to be in June. And that's always so fun. Just different, like Ashley Campbell and different other sons and daughters. And it's a cool little connection to have with them, and then get to do a show with them. And lots of other shows. I'm so bad at paying attention, but I'm excited for all of them. I'm excited for shows.
Right. So if people want to find out, what's the best way to find you? Probably
the best way is to just check out my Facebook. I have a website and an Instagram and all the things, but I'm really best about the Facebook. And I keep everyone updated about the shows and different things going on. My Uncle David just got inducted into the Texas Country Music Hall of Fame. So I'll be there in August in Texas for his induction. And so that's exciting. And we do a show there in Texas at their Country Music Hall of Fame there. And so just all kinds of different things like that. Things about my Uncle Lefty still happening. Going to be in Arkansas in June for that because of his induction over songwriting. And it's really always something, which is exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I was thinking about, I was sitting and talking with Jared Damon a while back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know, but he is like the biggest Lefty fan.
He
literally has him tattooed on his arm.
That's true.
And but he was, we're just hanging out. He's playing Lefty songs, and
I love that.
It was super cool.
Such a cool, huge influence. And there's going to be a new documentary on Lefty that comes out, and he's going to be in it, and I'm going to be in it. I don't know when that'll come out, but they're working on it. We already did a lot of the filming for it.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask you too about, I saw something, I think with you and Bill Anderson. Did you guys write?
Yes, we co-wrote a song. That was amazing.
He is one of my favorite writers ever.
I think if you look up songwriting legend in the book, that's pretty much Bill Anderson,
right. So before I moved to Nashville, like the year before I moved, I had written a song that I had a buddy who was recording in town, and I came up and I'd never been to the Opry. So I bought a ticket to the Opry.
Right.
I was literally front row center. I'm like, I don't care how much this costs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd met Ricky Skaggs and his wife the night before, and they were so nice. But then I bought the little backstage tour thing that you can do after the Opry. And we're doing the tour, and I'm just mesmerized by the whole place. And then Whispering Bill comes by, and he's like, how are you folks? Just stop to talk to us. Oh my gosh. Then I read his book last year, his biography.
Oh, yeah.
Which is absolutely incredible. So much that I didn't know about him. So I was super curious when I saw that you guys had written together.
Oh, I just love him. And that's another one of those really just full circle moments, because he, well, first of all, wrote Saginaw, Michigan, which was one of the biggest hits of my Uncle Lefty. And he tells a really funny story about how that song had just come out, and they're at a show, and Bill's like, well, you have to do that song, but Lefty like didn't really know the words yet. And so Bill is like just right there behind the curtain on the side of the stage, just feeding my uncle.
He's the teleprompter
Yeah,
before
he
teleprompters.
literally is feeding him the lines, which, hey, sometimes I need that for a show.
Right.
But that's hilarious. So I have that connection with him. And then, of course, he was great friends with my grandmother and both Opry members. And so that's kind of how I've known him. I actually have a picture. My baby book is crazy. And one of my pictures in my baby book is me. I'm maybe 2, just toddling backstage at the Opry, and there's Bill Anderson next to me. And then fast forward to this pandemic and got to co-write a song. We didn't do it in person because it was during the isolating time, one of the paranoid times.
Right.
And so we did it through emails
So
and
2
stuff.
weeks to curve. 2
Yes,
weeks to curve.
exactly.
Got it.
Right. And so we did it through email, which actually is probably for the best because I might have been like, I don't know words. You know what I mean? But it was just so cool. And he was such a gracious, that's what I love about him. Just after all of these years, like so humble and so gracious and not like intimidating at all. Those are the best kind.
Right.
And it was a really great experience, you know.
That's really awesome. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Gosh.
So removing your family, give me your Mount Rushmore of songwriters.
Oh, gosh.
Because it's not fair for you to ask you to put or not put your family in.
Sure. You know, I think if I had to like maybe pick 2, I might say Chris Christopherson and Merle Haggard. I mean, I'm just like die hard over those. I mean, Chris, and everyone has their own different thing they bring to songwriting too.
Right.
So it's so hard to pick. But like Chris is just like a poet. It's
Absolutely,
like
yes.
literally like poetry. And so that's amazing. And then Merle, I mean, when Merle sings his own song, it is like, I believe this man.
Right.
You know, and not everybody has that quality about
Absolutely.
them. So to really sell what you sing is what I love about his songs, I think. But that's so hard. I love everybody.
That's kind of how like Billy Joe Shaver
Yeah.
was for like, he is like
Yeah.
the ultimate. But
Yeah.
I feel like that guy, I don't know if you ever like got to see him. Like I saw him at 3rd and Lindsley and I was just, it's just mesmerizing. You're like, I feel like I was there when he was in his gunfight in Waco.
Exactly.
Like,
I know.
So,
I know. It's just so real. I'm like, wow, I really believe this guy. And then, of course, I love Whitey. That's tough, too. But that one's almost a cheat because he
Right.
wrote with Lefty. So I didn't say him. But just, I mean, who even thinks of an opening line of a song? I've been throwing horseshoes over my left shoulder. I mean, that's like, you have me. First line of the song, you've got me.
Right.
You know.
That song is incredible. Well, I'm so excited to hear this song, and
Thank you.
hopefully we'll have it
Yep.
and we can include it
Oh,
in
I'm
this.
so excited.
And we're gonna pull those videos
Yeah.
and put those in there as well. Thank you so much for doing this. Like I really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
I'm a guy, you have no idea who I am, and you just invite me to your beautiful home.
Oh, thank
and,
you.
And Kelsey in her squeaky pants.
I know.
and,
Kelsey in the leather squeaky pants. Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this. I hope that we get to sit down and talk again. And
Absolutely.
I hope that it's a huge year for you, and this single is super successful. And you go viral on Bobby's TikTok. And,
I know it. Bobby, hook me up with your TikTok.
yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like those guys. I mean, like and TikTok is such a weird thing.
Isn't it
Like,
bizarre?
I got on TikTok, hoping to promote my music
Sure.
and promote my podcast and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And that never happens. But then I start randomly talking about strange things in Alabama.
And
I
now
get,
you have found your people.
and it's like my videos get like 300,000 views now.
Isn't that hilarious?
I'm like, and I'm literally like looking up things on Google, like strange
Yeah.
things, and telling people
Yeah.
about it. And I'm like, but I post something about my music.
Sure.
Even like get like my famous friends in it
Right.
who are like football players and NBA stars,
Right.
and it gets like 30 views. And I'm like,
Right.
what am I doing?
Well, I do. If you haven't checked out Bobby Tomlin's TikTok, please go do it, because I do love the stories he gives. And we gave one about my grandmother and the last words Patsy Cline spoke to her before she died in the plane crash. That's a great one.
I saw that.
And it's really fun, and it's taken off, which really shows me that people do love the stories. Because at first, before he did it, he was like, I'm probably going to have to eat dog food to go viral, which he would never do. But he said that to me, and I was like, no. But you never know.
But I do love
And
that he's like so open to it, because he doesn't have to be either.
No.
Like, I mean, he's somebody who's been very successful in the songwriting industry.
Yeah.
And he's also not a guy who's chasing a deal.
No.
He doesn't have to, so it's legitimately just like him sharing his art with people.
Which is really a passion that he and I both share, is to tell the stories. It's like a huge passion. And he knows so many stories, not so much like a historical, like I'm just a historian and I know all these facts, though he does, but he's really passionate about sharing the stories, and he has a bunch of really cool ones. And it really has shown us both that there is like an audience for that. People really do want to hear all of that. And so, hopefully more of that.
Yeah. And that's why we made a podcast.
Exactly.
So if you're not familiar with Tess's family, please do yourself a favor and go check them out. But be sure to check out the new single. If it's available now, go get it, go download it, save it, whatever people, I don't
pre-save
even.
and save and all
like,
the things. I know, hopefully by now it'll be out.
Pre-save, but,
I know.
So
if it's already out, you don't pre-save. Just go listen, and it's called The Wrong One. And I'm
add
so
it to your
excited.
playlist.
That's right.
And I hope it's crazy successful for you. Thank you again so much for doing this. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for listening to From the Shadow podcast. New podcasts are released every Tuesday. If you enjoyed this show, please share it with at least one friend and tag us on Instagram at From the Shadow Podcast. Also, it would help us tremendously if you would rate the podcast on Apple Music and Spotify. From the Shadow with Chad Bearden.